What do you think is the difference between your playing of Bond and Roger Moore's playing?
I don't think it gets down to that. I think it's just a different appetite, that's all.
Both Sean Connery and Roger Moore were icons in their own right. They redefined an entire period of espionage thrillers and shaped film. Moore contributed finesse and intelligence, and Connery brought grit and charisma. What, though, did the actual 007 make of Moore's portrayal of the role? What Sean Connery has to say about Roger Moore isn't sugar-coated, and it might shock you. The original Bond, Sean Connery, chose to talk about Roger Moore's brilliant Bond performance the other day. Now, to clear things up, Connery was the first Bond, and Moore was the second Bond to don the costume. Both actors, as you might expect, brought their own distinct techniques to the role of the renowned spy. Let's go further into it. The Scottish town of Fountainbridge is the site of Sean Connery's birth on August 25, 1930. Euphemia spent long hours washing and cleaning clothing, while Joe drove large trucks for a wage. Their neighborhood was called the Street of a Thousand Smells, and they were poor. What exactly was that called? There was a rubber factory and a couple of breweries in the area, so the air had a peculiar fragrance. Little Sean slept in a drawer as a newborn, as his parents couldn't afford to buy a cot for him. They lived in a tiny house with only 2 rooms. "We were very poor," Connery would state, but he would also throw in, "I never knew how poor because that's how everyone was there." As a young lad, Sean Connery went by the name Tommy as well. His childhood in Fountainbridge was filled with playing tag and soccer with his pals. Big Tam was a nickname his friends gave him because of his towering height and immense power. Tollcross Elementary was a local school that Tommy, or Big Tam, attended. The exciting part comes next. He had exceptional skills in solving mathematical problems, and you won't believe it. Cartoons were his favorite. He devoured comic books as soon as he picked up a reading instrument. Movies have always captivated Connery. A few years ago, I would play hooky and go to Blue Halls, a local cinema, to watch the films. Leaving school at the tender age of 13, Connery took a job at a local dairy. He dove headfirst into the Navy at the age of 16, and he got 2 tattoos on his arm to commemorate his experience. They recited "Scotland Forever, Mom and Dad." Despite the immortality of these tattoos, his stint in the Navy was short-lived. His 7-year plan came to an abrupt halt after 3 years due to stomach ulcers. Upon his discharge from the Navy, he went back to his hometown and took on a wide variety of occupations, including shoveling coal, laying bricks, polishing coffins, and even modeling for pupils at the Edinburgh Art School. In order to join the Dunedin Weightlifting Club, he had to live frugally for months, putting save every dollar he could. The reason he gave was because it wasn't really about being fit, he said when questioned. Getting the girls' approval was my only goal. Not only did he win over the hearts of the local females, but he also garnered the respect of his gym mates, who recognized his talent and nominated him for the 1953 Mr. Universe pageant. Mr. Connery embarked on a 9-hour ordeal to get to the lively metropolis of London, site of several crucial battles. With self-assurance, he introduced himself to the judges as Mr. Scotland and made no secret of his 6'2" height. He received a medal for his outstanding effort and finished 3rd in the tall men category. Nevertheless, the commotion was far from ended. One of the onlookers, a casting director from the area, took a shine to our young Scot. He was so smitten with Sean Connery that he asked him to be a part of the chorus in a musical called South Pacific by Rodgers and Hammerstein. Located in the middle of London's thriving theater area, Drury Lane was supposed to host the production. I couldn't speak up. I wasn't very good at dancing, Connery said honestly, but I was very sure of one thing. Just by being there, I could attract attention. He only needed 1 session of practice before he had an instantaneous understanding. Right then, I made up my mind that acting would be my life's work. Sean Connery was his middle name and a nod to Alan Ladd's portrayal of Shane, his favorite film character of all time, so he decided to adopt it as his stage name. For some reason, Sean seemed to go better with the image I wanted to project, more than Tom or Tommy, he said with fondness. This led to Sean Connery's name being first mentioned in connection with the South Pacific show, when he appeared as a chorus member. Considering the future, Connery landed jobs in a wide variety of films and television series in the years to come. A highlight of this is an admirably performed appearance in a BBC performance of Requiem for a Heavyweight. The fact that he had never attended college worried him too. So he set out on a quest to become an expert in classic literature, reading everything from Joyce to Proust. But his street smarts remained unabated despite this informed reading. Connery got into an altercation with Johnny Stompanato, who was dating Lana Turner, when they were filming Another Time, Another Place in 1958. Speculation in Hollywood gossip columns suggested a possible romantic relationship between Connery and Turner. Despite Connery's renown as a strong guy and his adoration by women, he fell madly in love with Australian blonde actress Diane Salento. They were both involved in a TV show for Britain's ATV Playhouse in August 1957 when this occurred. The fact that Salento was previously married didn't stop Connery from developing strong feelings for her. At first, Diane treated Connery more like a friend and said that he seemed like a man with a significant grudge. But in 1959, as Connery's career was ready to take off, Salento got TB, and everything changed dramatically. It was then that Connery's feelings for her became crystal clear. The prospect of losing her had a profound effect on him. According to urban legend, Connery turned down a part opposite Charlton Heston in the film El Cid. He opted to stay by her side as she recovered instead. This, however, had no effect on his professional success. Contrarily, he was offered a contract by the illustrious 20th Century Fox Studios once they spotted his skill. As a result, Connery made a handful of films in Hollywood. Luck smiled upon him again after he fulfilled his contractual responsibilities. At that point, he was cast as the lead in an espionage film by producers Harry Saltzman and Albert Broccoli, who saw his talent. One of Ian Fleming's many novels served as the inspiration for this film. This led to the creation of a new hero for the entire globe, James Bond, Bond. We saw this spy fighting a wicked villain in the 1962 film Dr. No, who wanted control of missiles fired from American soil. Rapid expansion of the series ensued after Dr. No, with 1963's From Russia with Love and 1964's Goldfinger joining the fray. Even more impressively, Thunderball, which came out in 1965, was able to sell more tickets. Then in 1967, You Only Live Twice had its release. Many people saw Sean Connery's James Bond as the archetypal British super spy because to his magnetic presence, tremendous charisma, and questionable moral compass. That includes the times when he used a wig to conceal his premature baldness. We were certain that there was something unique about this man, Saltzman recalled. We didn't even bother with a screen test before hiring him. This man was destined to be 007, and we were all in agreement. In addition to his legendary Bond role, Connery wowed moviegoers with a number of other outstanding performances. The 1964 Alfred Hitchcock psychological thriller Marnie featured him. In addition to The Hill, 1965, A Fine Madness, 1966, Shiloh, 1968, and The Molly McGee, 1970, he worked on a number of other projects. He made the announcement that he was quitting the Bond character with 1971's Diamonds Are Forever. The path was therefore opened for Roger Moore to play the renowned spy, and he did so beginning with 1973's Live and Let Die. Sean Connery decided to take stock of his personal life at the same time that his acting career was taking off. Following her divorce, his previously recognized romantic interest, Diane, was suddenly unattached. On November 19, 1962, they were married in a secret ceremony near Gibraltar Rock. "With this fame, I could probably get away with anything," he claimed in an interview with the Saturday Evening Post. "Everything I eat and drink is now gourmet, and I hang around with the most stunning women." Connery was charming and successful, but he had a tendency to promote dubious activity and cross the line during interviews. One alarming comment he made to a London-based newspaper, even went so far as to condone physical violence against women. An open-handed slap is all right, so is covering her mouth with your hand. That wasn't the end of his contentious statements. He elaborated in an interview with Playboy magazine, saying, "I don't think hitting a woman is wrong if every other option is exhausted and adequate warning is given." All the press were abuzz with this rumor mill in 1973. Everyone was hating on him since the conversation was solely about him. He and Salento's marriage terminated 10 years after their son Jason was born. Rumor has it that he was cruel to her, and some have even gone so far as to imply he threatened physical violence. Connery refused to budge from his staunch denial of the charges. He remarried in 1975, 2 years after his first. Love blossomed between him and the lovely French-Moroccan artist Micheline Roquebrune, who became his bride, at a golf event in Morocco's picturesque open pastures. Golf was their passion. Not only did they win the men's and women's honors that day, but they also won each other's hearts. Surprisingly, the location of their wedding was identical to that of his previous ceremony in Gibraltar. Connery had already starred in 6 Bond films at this point. The once famous guy, nevertheless, now yearned for obscurity. He uprooted his life and settled in England and Morocco, escaping the intense spotlight of Hollywood. He gave his bride and her 3 children from a previous marriage a life of luxury on these magnificent estates after he married her. 10 years would elapse before Sean Connery felt prepared to reprise his legendary Bond role. Despite his reservations, he reluctantly accepted to act in the 1983 film Never Say Never Again. The many $million he earned for his performance was a huge jump from the meager $116,000 he allegedly earned for his debut Bond film, Dr. No. With all the money he made, Sean Connery still felt limited. He was rather vocal about his dissatisfaction with producers Broccoli and Saltzman, claiming that they stifled his imagination. "My Bond persona is somewhat tedious and poses a problem," he commented about his last role as the renowned spy. A large portion of his wealth went to the Scottish International Education Trust, thanks to his generosity. Supporting pupils from low-income families was important to him. Therefore, he felt a strong connection to this effort. But some who opposed him wondered if he was just being kind, or if he was trying to further his political career. Connery was a staunch supporter of Scotland's independence from the UK. In fact, he even backed the failed 2014 referendum that sought to achieve just that. He generously donated substantial portions of his own fortune to the Scottish National Party, which is notorious for its policies of independence. Marbella was a sanctuary for Connery and his wife Micheline for more than 2 decades. Sean Connery kept busy in the film industry after his stint as James Bond ended. He was in many films, including Robin and Marion, 1976, The Man Who Would Be King, 1975, and Murder on the Orient Express, 1974. Successive films in the series include The Great Train Robbery, 1979, Time Bandits, 1981, Highlander, 1986, and The Name of the Rose, 1986. An accolade from the British Film Academy went to the most recent one, which was adapted from a work by Umberto Eco. However, Connery's 1987 Oscar win for Best Supporting Actor was the defining event. Beyond his Bond character, he shone in The Untouchables as a Chicago police officer chasing the infamous Al Capone. Unlike some, he didn't behave superior to others. You could tell Sean had given this some consideration because his response, which was both straightforward and honest, to the interviewer's question concerning James Bond's enduring popularity was spot on. According to him, people love action and entertainment, and that's what Bond movies are all about. What really piqued my interest, though, was that he went beyond only discussing the action to also discuss the unique styles that each actor brought to their roles. He seemed to think of Bond as belonging to all of the actors that portrayed him and all of the viewers. He certainly didn't see him as a singular entity. It seems like Sean was overjoyed to hear that Daniel Craig regarded his work with admiration when his name was mentioned. It was clear that the compliment meant something to him, even though he didn't appear shocked or as like he needed it. The fact that Craig, who is fantastic in the part, looked up to him must have been fulfilling, and I believe it was because he cared about the Bond heritage. The fact that there is always some kind of peril in a Bond film was another point that Sean made. According to him, that's the main attraction of the character. I believe he really thought that Bond's risk-taking and fearlessness in the face of danger were an integral component of his character. Ultimately, Sean Connery's reflections on James Bond seem to transcend the realm of mere cinematic characters. They seem to touch upon something more profound. A narrative may remain relevant for decades when portrayed by a variety of talented actors, each of whom brings something special to the table. I believe Sean was grateful to have been a part of something so famous, and he was also appreciative of the contributions of others. Despite his indelible legacy as one of the greatest James Bonds of all time, he seems to have viewed himself more as a team player,